Netflix's The Four Seasons remakes a hit 1981 movie. It's a major improvement. Tina Fey's adaptation of Alan Alda's film departs from the source material in key ways, while keeping much of the plot intact. Alan Alda was one of Hollywood's first prominent male feminists. He campaigned for the Equal Rights Amendment, contributed to the star-studded gender equality album Free to Be. You and Me, that's him, and the project's originator Marlo Thomas, narrating the story of Atlanta, a retold Greek myth in which a legendary huntress challenges a male suitor to a foot race and, in this version, crosses the finish line alongside him, and spoke out on what were then called women's issues so frequently that the Boston Globe dubbed him the quintessential honorary woman. But Alda's 1981 movie, The Four Seasons, a bittersweet comedy about midlife marital crises which he wrote, directed, and stars in, and which has now been remade into a new Netflix miniseries, is run through with a pronounced sour streak that, at least with 4+ decades of hindsight, feels a lot like misogyny. The setup is simple. 3 long-married couples, played by Alda and Carol Burnett, Jack Weston and Rita Moreno, and Len Cariou and Sandy Dennis, meet up for a woodsy weekend getaway outside New York City in honor of the latter's wedding anniversary. But as Nick and Jack gather up sticks for a fire, the former makes a confession. He's about to leave his wife, and the problem, Nick explains, is that she doesn't do anything. He's a rising star, albeit in the unglamorous field of insurance sales, and she's going nowhere. The woman he married to bring stability to his life, he rages, isn't just stable, she's inert. Nick casts her off, and the next time the friends meet, he's replaced her with a younger model, a pretty blonde flight attendant who repeats his inflated boasts verbatim. Nick comes off as boorish and self-centered, so preoccupied with his new lease on life that he doesn't notice or doesn't care that his longtime friends are left grimacing on the deck of a cramped sailboat while he and his new girlfriend Ginny have noisy sex down below. But he's not exactly wrong, at least as far as his soon-to-be ex-wife is concerned. The way Dennis plays Anne, she's not only inert but practically non-functional, so airy and disconnected it's as if she's 3 steps from a Victorian sanatorium. Her husband fumes that rather than taking up a productive hobby, she's spent 3 years photographing vegetables, and while that sounds like an inattentive spouse's mean-spirited caricature, the movie never gives any reason to question it. Kate, who works at a glossy magazine, offers her a gig shooting portraits of the city's most influential people, but Anne demurs. She prefers her subjects cruciferous. And with that, the movie is essentially done with her. And turns up during the film's 3rd segment, when she impishly uses her married name to check into Nick's room at a crowded college-town hotel on Parents' Weekend, but she disappears soon after. And we're not meant to miss her. As Janet Maslin put it in her contemporary New York Times review, Nick tires of her almost as soon as the audience does. Both versions of The Four Seasons depict marriage as a marathon, not a sprint. When movie Nick breaks the news of his intention to split, Jack argues that every relationship has its good and bad spells, and while Nick's affection for and may be in a downturn, surely he'll feel it again. But the film, which, though not currently streaming, will be available on Netflix beginning May 5th, is in an awful rush to get it out of the way so that Jack's newfound love can stir up doubts in his still-married friends. Weston's anxious hypochondriac and Marino's volatile painter mostly just scream at each other, but Jack and Kate fight like grown-ups. Jack is a therapist, and while he drives his friends nuts by pressing them to reveal their feelings while keeping his own hidden away, he seems to understand the importance of expressing anger without giving in to it, at least that is, until he finally blows his top and lays waste to the group's winter cabin. Perhaps the movie itself is a form of acting out. The most obvious reading is to see Jack and Kate as a reflection of Alda's own long and successful marriage. He and Arlene Alda have been married since 1957. But it's hard to resist the observation that he gave his wife's profession of photographer not to his character's on-screen mate, but to Anne, the movie's grating and disposable ex. Alda shows up in Netflix's The Four Seasons, an 8-episode remake created by Lang Fisher, Tracy Wigfield, and Tina Fey, who heads a cast that includes Steve Carell, Coleman Domingo, Will Forte, Marco Calvani, and Carrie Kenny Silver. But he's there as Anne's father, funnily enough, just long enough to give the project his blessing, and to give Faye's character, who is somewhere in her third decade of marriage, his tip for keeping things fresh. Every so often, get yourself cleaned up, brush your teeth, and inform your unsuspecting spouse, "Congratulations, today is a sex day." The new version is more overtly structured as a comedy. Fisher and Wigfield are both alumni of Phase 30 Rock, but it grows more melancholy over time, as its characters dig deeper into their own discomfort. As before, the catalyst is the breakup of Nick and Anne's marriage, with Nick and Anne played by Carell and Kenny Silver. Faye and Forte take on Alda and Burnett's roles. Domingo and Calvani make up the third couple. But this time, Anne's humiliation is deeper and more public. Rather than taking place in the middle of an intimate getaway with a few close friends, Nick has unwittingly chosen to drop the bomb on the day of a surprise vow renewal ceremony that Anne has put together for their 25th anniversary. For a moment, it appears as if being compelled to proclaim his dedication in front of a small army of friends and family might have reconnected Nick with all the things he loves about the woman he's spent half his life with. But when the story jumps to the next season, he, like his Reagan-era predecessor, has a new blonde on his arm, this one played by Erica Henningsen, who's currently playing the Sandra Dee to Jonathan Groff's Bobby Darin in Broadway's Just in Time. This Anne, however, doesn't disappear. She keeps turning up, booking a room at a nearby hotel when Jack's new girlfriend, Ginny, persuades him to let her plan a vacation for the entire friend group at a hip but threadbare eco-resort, then swiping his suite at parents' weekend again. It's desperate and a little pathetic. Painful even for her longtime friends to watch, the kind of turmoil that generates a combination of sympathy and a fierce determination not to end up in the same spot. But Anne sticks it out, both in the story and on the TV series, and our respect for her grows as she taps back into herself. Her first attempts at flirting with a cute young paddleboard instructor are so inept you want to crawl under your couch cushions, but eventually she finds a new boyfriend, which is good, and realizes he's not enough for her, which is even better. Over time, Kenny Silver's slouched shoulders and dust mop haircut are replaced by a more confident serenity. It would be wrong to say that the new 4 seasons doesn't judge its characters. In fact, it's judging them all the time, weighing their attempts not to let the comfort of a decades-long marriage settle into complacency, to greet their 50s with grace but not resignation. It's a sign of the times, surely, that while the underlying details of the plot have not shifted, 2 of the couples still have daughters who attend the same college. The new version ages the characters up a full decade. In 1981, Jack Weston's Danny, who's 10 years older than his 40-something friends, is played for comic relief, so terrified by the prospect of his imminent death that he's developed a morbid fear of the elastic in his underwear. But it's hard to feel too panicked about the aging process when one of the 55-year-olds you're looking at on Netflix is Coleman Domingo. Even if his character does have a life-threatening heart ailment, the new 4 seasons is more than twice the length of Alda's movie, and it makes good use of its expanded scope, broadening our understanding of each character so no one feels shoved aside. Even Ginny emerges as a character in her own right, not just the punchline to Nick's midlife crisis, but it's Jack and Kate's marriage that feels the most lived in. The straight couples joke about how Domingo and Calvani's characters have a whole other life with their better-looking gay friends, but we never get to see it. Faye and Forte have an entirely different dynamic than the one between Alda and Burnett, but it's immediately recognizable. He's pleasing to a fault, jovial and conflict-averse. She's the bad cop and resentful at being made to fill that role. Like their characters, the 2 actors have known each other for decades, and even as their on-screen couple's marital spats grow more intense, to the point where you're not sure if you should be rooting for them to reconcile or split up, you can feel them cradling each other as performers, allowing the tenderness and the spite to flow unchecked. If a good relationship lets each partner become more themselves, that's true of actors as well as lovers, and Faye and Forte make a perfect couple.